Hi and welcome to the first episode of Circling the Dream. It's a new series of interviews focused on the sound side of the film and TV business. This first season is made up of 8 interviews and covers mixers, sound editors, sound supervisors, ADR mixers who are working in the TV and film industry today. The idea is to hear how these people made their way into an industry that can be both difficult to get into and very competitive once you're in it. I've tried to include a cross-section of disciplines and experience levels so that you can get as much from this as possible. And I'll be releasing a new interview every 2 weeks until further notice, or until I run out of people to interview. Hopefully you'll find it enjoyable and informative. We're going to start this first season with Mike Prestwood-Smith. In case you don't know, he's one of the top film re-recording mixers in the world. He works internationally on the biggest movies, James Bond, Harry Potter. He did News of the World, Captain Phillips. He got an Oscar nomination for that. Rocketman, Mission Impossible. The list goes on. He's a lovely guy and he shares lots of great insider information with us in this interview. We get to find out what kind of equipment he dreams of.
Give me those Minority Report gloves.
What he loves and what he hates about the job. What gets him really excited.
Eccles cake.
Oh, really?
I love an Eccles cake.
And some of his deepest, darkest secrets.
You know, I've got a little room on Compton Street.
No.
Okay, let's get straight to the interview. If you like it, please hit subscribe. It's really going to help me to find more people to interview for you. So let's get on with it now. Here's Mike.
Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
So, just tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it.
Okay, I am what they call a re-recording mixer, film re-recording mixer.
Mm-hmm.
And so my tasks are to mix all the sound of a movie, make it like mixing a record, but you're mixing it for picture. Get all the dialogue and music, and usually have someone with me doing effects and sort of make the soundtrack of the movie.
And what made you want to do that as a career?
I think it's music primarily. I got into this through music.
Most people do.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I remember the early days in my teens really enjoying being in bands and loving recording and sort of playing instruments, and just knew that I wanted to have something to do with that. And I guess getting into a studio quite early, I guess I was in my, I don't know, probably 15 or something. I thought, oh, this is the place I want to be.
And that was your first job in music then, was it?
Well, yeah, actually what happened is I think I was doing, this is going back to the dark ages, I was doing the wrong A-levels, and my mum was living in New York at the time, and I got, she said, why don't you just come over to New York and screw your A-levels? And actually I got a place at university there doing law, believe it or not, of all things.
So God, the things you find out about people.
I know, so I did a year of that, hated it, but in the process, hooked up with a lot of interesting people there. 17 in New York in the 80s, you know, it's crazy. And I went to the New School of Social Research, which was quite new at that time, and they were doing lots of very bespoke courses in sort of the creative arts, particularly music and all sorts of things. But they were doing studio workshops and learning how to use what was then quite new digital equipment, samplers and synthesizers and things.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into that in a big way, and then got a job in New York in a recording studio programming. And at that point, my mum was like coming back to England. I was 18, I think. And she was like, oh, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And it was one of those coin flip things where I was like, God, I could stay in New York. I mean, it was real sliding doors. If I'd stayed there, I probably would have been in the music business, that was that. But I came back with her and actually got a job through a friend in a commercial post-production house where they mix commercials, called John Wood Studios, as a runner, really.
Okay.
And, but saw, you know, how you, at that time, they were doing everything on Mag, and saw how they cut together soundtracks for TV commercials, and they used to just crank these things out. You know, like I think you booked it in half-hour slots, you know. And so I worked as a runner there, but quickly sort of the digital era was arriving, and I was fully equipped to to know how to use it because I'd done all these courses. So I persuaded John to get an emulator and said, I'll track lay your stuff, and happened like that. And then it was so successful, he then bought a Synclavier, which is what I then got used to. I track laid hundreds of commercials on that for a few years. Yeah, so sound design and music and all that stuff started. And all along this, I was doing music as well in bands and recording. And then I left. Sorry, this is probably rambling. This is probably answering.
No, it's good.
I left that. I say I left it. I kind of always had my hand in post, but I kind of went back to producing music for a few years, and really a flip-flop between them. Always wanted to keep my hand into music, but I think the musical part of our job, is a big component of it.
Yeah, and it's so useful.
Yeah. And so understanding how to balance music, how it works dramatically or emotionally, and all that stuff is key. And so
how did you get from what was effectively a kind of sound designer, track laying, into mixing?
Yeah, well, at the time they were still two very different sort of disciplines, I guess. Goldcrest bought a Synclavier in the early 90s and went, we want to do this as well, and they spent loads of money on their Synclavier and said, come and work for us, and you can do sound design and stuff, and track lay TV, and do a bit of mixing, do a bit of everything, really. And I think at some point, whoever was running it at the time, I'm sorry, I forget who it was, said, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep doing the sound design? Do you want to do? And I said, well, actually, I'm really enjoying the mixing. So I got a couple of moderately sized TV dramas to do. And that was that, really. I think I just kind of then started just getting more into that, and learning the skill of what that was about. And really, I think I knew what I was doing, but really the skill of a mixer is not so much pressing buttons as how to find the consensus amongst people. Really find out, try and direct people in the way they think they want to go. And keep people happy and placate and...
And is that the most important part of your job, do you think?
Ultimately, no. The most important part, as I see it, is what goes on the screen, because that lasts forever.
Yeah.
So the film or the TV thing, whatever you're doing, I think that has to be the primary focus. I'm sure many people would disagree, but I think that is the most important thing, because, as I say, that goes on.
But getting to that point,
obviously, these films are made by producers and directors, and they develop these things for years. It's their thing, and I'm there to service them fundamentally. But obviously, as with any part of the filmmaking process, I think we're there as experts to sort of help a director. A good director will seek not advice necessarily, but your expertise and your experience to bring into his or her film, and pick the best bits of it. And go, well, I like that, I don't like that, and so the relationship with the filmmakers is key, of course it is, and therefore diplomatizing and understanding them and trying to find their vision is key. Yeah, and so that is a personal thing.
Is that something you felt you've got better at, or you've just always been able to do?
It was a life skill, that isn't it? It's not just So I think as you get older, you learn what doesn't work and what does work a bit more than when you're younger. So yes, I'd say so for sure. And I think also having had the experience I've had now does give you the ability to sort of, a resource, experience is a resource. You can look back and go, well, that didn't work with them, so maybe I won't go down that one. Circling the Dream. A little quick anecdote, because it's one of my favourites, doing a film for Bernardo Bertolucci, who is just a legendary Italian filmmaker, and he and I remember getting it quite early on. I think I was in my early 30s. Don't know how it happened, but I was there with him, and it was a point where I was trying to find that level of trust. You're searching for trust at that age, I think, in a studio, because you want to go with your instincts and you want to use your skills, but you need the freedom to you need a director to say, yes, show me something great, So I remember turning around to him and he said, oh, he wasn't sure about something, and I said, oh, I think we should go this way, trust me. And he said, I only trust you 50%. Okay. And I went, okay, well, my aim is to get you to trust me 100% by the end of this. So we carried on mixing, and weeks went past. and we had a screening. We had a couple of screenings, but eventually the final screening went through, and he came up to me, and I'd not forgotten because it was he'd obviously remembered this, and he came up to me and, "Now I trust you 100%."
Oh, wow.
And it was just one of those, lovely moments in your career where you go, "God, wow, that's great."
Yeah, that is.
But it was
especially with someone like
that, of course. But it was that thing of trust, getting someone's trust, and that's what these relationships are all about, trust. So a filmmaker would return, hopefully, to me because there's a shorthand and a trust.
Yeah.
He or she knows I'm going to get their aesthetic, and I've already got their take.
So what do you most love about the job?
I think it's storytelling. I really do. I think I love films. I watch them all the time. I'm intrigued by them. They're life-affirming. They ask questions of you. They challenge you. They make you laugh. They make you cry. They're amazing. It's an incredible format. I think when you look at it, it's got so many components of lots of other formats, but all in one beautiful little thing. And they're very, very powerful. It's a very powerful medium, and I think it's like a bit of magic working with that. When you sit back and you watch something you worked on, and it's crystallized in some way into this sort of thing beyond what any one person could do. It's kind of magic,
How often can you watch a film after you finished it and think, "Oh, I really like that"? Or is there just bits of it that you think, "Oh, that came off"?
It's funny. I think it is a headset. I think when you're really in the groove of a film and you're really living and breathing it, you can watch it back and enjoy it for what you've just achieved collectively, and go, "God, that is a movie." We've got that. It then usually takes me ages to stop seeing all the sticky tape and scaffolding and bits of string, because you always do.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever get away from that, because you peek behind the curtain, you know what's going on,
But that's part of your job,
Yeah.
I guess, isn't it? But when you've had a chance to forget exactly that, the sticky tape.
Yeah, totally.
It's
No, I do that more with music, maybe because it's more ethereal, cerebral stuff anyway, so it hasn't got quite the same form as a film has.
Yeah.
When you've got a film, it's so you can, like I say, you can see all the screws. And,
Yeah. So what's the bit you most dislike about the job?
Ooh, I guess it's a people thing. So let's say when you're working with the people you like, it's always good.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are times when you're not in that situation, and that's like any job. If the relationship's not working, or if you're finding it a grind to find a consensus, it's hard. But I think also often, big decisions get batted down the whole production process to post. Oh, we'll do it in post. So a lot of the decisions, sometimes nothing to do with the mixing at all, get saved to the end, and often that creates conflict, and not between me necessarily, but with filmmakers, producers, and often that the arena for that conflict is the mix stages, and so it can be a pretty volatile.
Well, it's the last piece.
And so when things really go wrong, they can really go wrong. I've seen all sorts of horrible behaviour on the mix stage, and obviously, that's not pleasant. So I guess that's probably the worst part.
All right.
Well, the hours can get a bit mental.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what kind of hours do you work?
I find that after sort of 10 hours or so, I just start giving up, because it's such a focused thing. So I always advocate, whatever the schedule is, and I've been in some crazy schedules, that you don't work too long.
And you have the power to say that?
Well, insofar as if you're saying we've got 3 weeks left, oh my God, the film's just been shredded, what are we going to do? I'd rather work 7 days a week, regular hours, so we all get a break, and we all have time to sort of get a bit of distance and come back. Then just, that crazy sort of 1 o'clock in the morning every night thing, where I just, having experienced both, I just know that pacing and is will ultimately get you a better result.
So, you've worked in the States. How does it differ from working here?
Yeah, it's a very different culture. I think certainly Los Angeles, New York less so, but is an industry. It really is a proper, fully blown industry, like law would be over here or something, where it's very structured, a lot of middle management, a lot of facilities, a lot of great facilities, And so therefore, to navigate that is quite different. It's much more, I'd say, rogue cottage industry over here, how you put it. It's fewer people, and it's slightly easier to understand it. But so over there, it's much more corporate in that sense.
Right.
Also, they've got a very strong union, which does dictate. We're talking about hours. And there's a lot more sort of structure to that, the way people work and how they work and their responsibilities and things. So, hand in hand with structure comes, etiquette, if you like. It's a bit more formal. But then also, the flip side of that is, it can be a bit more fun over here.
Right.
So far as there's less structure, so there's a bit more silliness to be had.
Yeah.
Which
is important.
Yeah, I do. I always try and encourage a bit of a sort of a lightness, if you like, on a stage where people feel they can say what they need to. I think when it's all a bit clamped down, you don't get the best out of people.
No.
And I think a bit of humour is important. We're in this all day, every day. So. Yeah, there are differences. There are fundamentally the workflow, the work that actually happens, the creative work that happens, is fundamentally exactly the same. There's no difference in standard or approach or workflow or anything.
Yeah.
I think in many ways when I got to the States, which is 2010, they were a bit behind in the workflow. I think often with any industry, it's the sort of Rebel Alliance that always is forging forward and finding the new ways of doing things.
You've always been keen on the cutting edge, haven't you?
I suppose
You've
so.
always been the first one to get the new desk. And...
Yeah, I guess I kind of like...
Yeah, but that's great.
Yeah, and also I think any chance of getting the logistics out of the way to focus on the creative is a bonus. And often the advances are all about, I don't have to press that button 3 times, I can just do it once, Yeah. And so without, sounding too pious about it, I've always wanted to try and forge ahead technically so that I could get ahead creatively.
Yeah, well, I mean, you want the kit to be invisible, really.
I'd love it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me those Minority Report gloves. And
You've obviously come across a lot of people coming into the industry.
Yeah.
You've spotted some people who have been great, some that haven't been great. What's the difference?
Well,
what do you look for?
I think you've got to really want to do it.
Yeah.
Like any job, you've got to, I think you can only really get good at something you really like.
Right.
So make sure you like it. Don't just do it as I might try that,
Yeah.
So I'd say that was key. I think also from seeing a lot of kids coming through, I think it's always the ones that have an opinion, the ones that have something to say. Often the squeaky wheel gets the oil, It's putting your head above the parapet and going, oh, that ADR doesn't match, or something cheeky, or whatever it is. It's often those, people that have got something to say. And actually, even at my level, I think you've got to have an opinion. You've got to have an opinion about something. So bring an opinion, be passionate about what you do, and be relentlessly, annoyingly sort of knocking on everyone's door, making sure that...
So you advocate people saying hello rather than being quiet?
I totally do, yeah. You don't remember people that don't say anything. Yeah. Obviously, part of the job is being able to have an opinion and say it in a way that is constructive and it's going to bring something to the project.
And at the right time.
And so if you've got an opinion and you've expressed it correctly at the right time, then you've probably got most of the skills required to get this thing done, as long as you're technically able to do it. So I guess, maybe that's why I think that if you can do that and you still progress, then you're going the right way. It's also just badgering people. I think you've got to be, it's like with any business, I think you've got to be persistent and say, and be passionate. Yeah. This is what I really want to do.
So what do you see as the biggest obstacle for?
I think it's the arena for it. It's a small industry, certainly film that, although, equipment has kind of democratized it somewhat over the years, it's still, if you want to get into the best work, it's a triangle that goes like this, Yeah. And so everyone's trying to get into that top of the triangle. Yeah. So, it's difficult. But I think it's having the arena to learn. And I think us as facility people, and it's wonderful you're doing this because this is just the sort of thing, need to encourage people to to get into it and be fairly ruthless about choosing the people that are good at it.
Yeah.
But at least give them opportunity. You know, it's a craft and it's an art, I suppose, or a talent. But but it's opportunity. It's really providing people with a chance to show who they are and what they can do. And I think with the democratization of equipment, you know, getting into people's other work, short films, music, you know, there's a lot of areas where people can really express themselves and just do it, you know. So many people talk about it and don't do it. Just do it. Just make a film. You know, make some music. Just get out there. Persistence.
Is it important for someone to go and get themselves educated before they come to your door, or can they learn on the job?
Well, I suppose I could say I'm living proof that that's not necessary. I learnt at the New School in New York about synthesizers, but I didn't really. I suppose I got a basic knowledge of what's required, but fundamentally, the knowledge you learn is really on the job. So, I think there's a tangible route either way. I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong. Mm-hmm. I think having skills and learning how to use equipment and understanding the principles behind basic workflow and stuff is important. Yeah. But I think ultimately it's a people industry, and you know the skills mainly are people skills. Once you've got a certain proficiency in kit, and also you can sit with the Pro Tools at home and learn it if you want. You get a manual and do it. You know, you don't need to necessarily go and get taught how to do it. But some people are better at going into that arena and being taught and have that structure and formality and you know, exams or whatever goes with those things and getting degrees of diplomas and things. And some people prefer that.
But if you were looking for an assistant,
it would not be relevant.
Would not be a prerequisite.
Not at all. No. I mean, just sit in front of a Pro Tools and show me what you're doing, you know. Or, and as long as you're above a certain standard, which really isn't really that hard to get.
No.
The rest of the skills are about listening, are about knowing film, understanding the process, relating to people, you know, all those things we've spoken about, the people stuff, which I think you have a certain amount of inherently, and then the other stuff you learn as you go along.
Yeah. You learn to tame it.
Yeah. I think there's a sort of myth of opportunity in the States, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
You know, especially in Los Angeles, you can be anything to anyone there. You know, one minute you're a producer, the next minute you're a director, you know, whatever. However, I don't think it's governed in the same way that it is here. I do think there's a little bit of a cliquey club thing that goes on here. And I think it's part of our inherent class system, and also the British sort of who do you think you are above your station type thing. Yeah. That, you know, I'd love to say as generations go past that gets less, and I think it probably does, but there's still a bit of that goes on. And, you know, I don't think that does happen in the States. I don't think that's there in the States.
But what surprised me, when I came over to see you in the States, it's how cutthroat it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the mixers literally would take each other's heads off to get a job.
Still do.
Yeah, but that feels a bit more gentlemanly here, you know?
I do think there's a bit of a stake your claim mentality in the States. It's not just in our industry, it's in all of them, whereby you head out west, you find your patch of ground, you picket fence it, and you defend it within your life.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I think that runs through their culture, and I'm not being negative, I just think it's what their culture is. It's partly what makes them great, you know, send people to the moon.
Kind of shocks me a bit, I've got to say. You know?
Yeah, but it is definitely more ruthless, and there's just more. The arena's a bigger arena for that sort of stuff to happen. You know, there's more in the balance. So if a mixer gets a job, 10 other mouths get fed. You know.
Yeah.
And so I think there's more. It's more calculating and more. It's more
the pressures. Interesting way of putting it, actually. Yeah.
I think that has a factor. Definitely is a factor. Whereas over here, it's you're just on your own, or at least, you know, to date. Yeah.
But you clearly like it here, because you came back.
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't come back because I missed it or I liked it more. I came back mainly for family reasons, and kids' education and other things. But I do like it here.
But you do go back there and work, don't you?
Yeah, I was there in January, February, and I might be going back in November. So yeah, I to and fro.
Yeah,
I'm very
that's
lucky that I can
luxury,
do that.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fun stuff. Desert Island plugin.
Oh, God. Okay, this is old school.
Okay.
I'm going with the Wave C4.
Oh, right. You like that, don't you?
I know.
Is that across your dialogue bus?
I think it's just one of those things you can use. It's so many times it's like, it's just one of those things that it's, and I know that other plugins do it now, the FabFilter multiband and the Q2s and 3s and this and that. But like a dynamic EQ is like, basically, you've got everything in that. So if I only had one plugin, that's the one.
You get 3.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's a plugin that DUI make, this Magic Spectrum, which I've used for years to help match ADR. That sometimes it just does something that nothing else can do.
Right.
It just messes it up, and somehow that you're like, I don't even know how it's doing that.
Yeah, but it works.
Yeah. So I probably every movie I'll reach for that somewhere and go, oh, let's just try that. And sometimes it's spectacular results. You're going to go, wow, never would have done.
Yeah, but other times not so.
Other times like,
But there's no rationale.
Not
to it.
really.
Yeah.
no. But it's,
What about desks and stuff? Do you have a favourite?
I guess the S6 is probably it now for me. Yeah. I mean, I mixed a whole movie on 8 faders of S6 M10 like last year, and never felt my hands were tied, even on an M10. I had meters on a DFC, so really a little M40 or whatever. You know, the S6 is that's all I need.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have a sound hero?
Well, David Lynch probably. Yeah. I think some of those choices he made in those movies, you know, Lost Highway and others, that are like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not from a technical point of view, there's loads of brilliant sound designers and mixers and things, but someone conceptually, I think he can be really out there, you know. Yeah.
Favourite film?
Well, it's not a sound film, but can it just be a film that
Can be any film,
Something
yeah,
Like It
no.
Hot is, I think, probably the most perfect piece of filmmaking ever committed. Story, acting, all of it, it's just perfection. I literally can't find a flaw in it.
If anyone had ever asked me to pick your favourite film, it wouldn't have been that.
Really? What would it have been?
I don't know, but I just wouldn't have thought. I think it's a brilliant film.
Yeah, I've watched it maybe 20 times. If it's on, I'll sit there and watch it again, just go, got to be something wrong with this somewhere, but there isn't. It's just, it's brilliant.
Circling the dream.
Eccles cake.
Oh, really?
I love an Eccles cake. I forgot they existed until...
You're not a northerner, are you?
No. I forgot they existed until a couple of years ago, and I saw it, those little packs of...
They're like flies inside,
yeah.
aren't they?
But, they're bloody good when you get a good one.
Brilliant. That sounds like an illness.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds like a cream. I've done it before briefly, and I remember having it done to me with Walter Murch sat down with me and went, dialogue. Yeah. Yeah, and it was the most informative, most valuable experience I ever had on a mix stage was with him for a few hours. He was talking, I mean, I don't know if you met him, but he's...
No, I haven't. I'd love to.
Yeah. I mean, I've mixed a film with him, and it was a wonderful experience because he was editing the film and would normally mix it, and he did finish it off, but he really handed over a lot of the construction work to me. And as we progressed through it, increasingly just trusted me to do it. And so we got a lovely relationship through that. But he sat down and went, this is how I like dialogue. And he literally, you know, to the DB was like, and, you know, terms of EQ and where things were. And it's like, yeah.
And what was it? I mean, is there a lot of notching, or is it just very gentle?
No. It was more about
and stuff?
listening to what was wrong about something. What's wrong with that line? Why wouldn't you leave that like that? You know, and talking about it, and then saying, here's that frequency, and here's that one, and just, I guess, discussing what it was that you were hearing, and then crucially looking at a number and going, there it is. Weirdly, making that connection with someone like that who's incredibly instinctive and experienced was like, I guess I kind of knew probably most of it, but just having him sort of help you understand. And also there was a point at which, you know, you mix by numbers. You're like, you know, oh, I better not go more than 10 dB on that. And he was never that. It was like, what sounds right? What sounds right? And you look down, and it's like, holy shit, you know, that's a mangle.
I love that kind of mixing, because it's from the gut, doesn't
totally.
it? You know?
And I, ever since then, have just never. I mean, I've just gone, what sounds right? Oh, there it is. And you look down, you're putting 20 dB in it somewhere, and you're like, fuck, you know. But fuck it, if it sounds right. You know.
So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit subscribe and become part of the community. You'll be notified every time a new interview comes out. I'm going to make these available on both YouTube and as a podcast so that you can listen as you do the hoovering or go for a run or whatever. The next interview will be with Graham Kirkman, a heavily bearded and multi-award-winning Scotsman who's been working as a mixer in British TV for about 180 years. I can guarantee that lots of you will have watched literally hundreds of the shows that he's mixed over the years. It's a great interview, so please try to catch it if you can. Just a quick reminder, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the notification button, and you'll get the next episode automatically when it's released. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, ciao ciao.